are formidable.
I've waited for this moment.
Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The combatants already trading barbs ahead of what could be a fight between them. Clarissa Shields said, "I box better than you, bang better than you, but you are great. I'm just the greatest." To which Michaela Mayer responded, "You can bang for sure, we both love the fire, but it's time you meet your match." Is that what Michaela Mayer could be for Clarissa Shields? So because Lauren Price is otherwise preoccupied with a mandatory in Stephanie Pinedo, and she plans to get married the month after that, she's not available for an undisputed title fight with Michaela, and thus Michaela has shifted her focus back to what could be the Clarissa Shields fight. I say could be because I still have serious reservations as to whether or not this fight is going to happen. There are several hang-ups that need to be addressed, like the contracted weight for the fight. Clarissa wants it at 165, where Michaela says she can't go any higher than 160, and of course, the money. Clarissa's still with Dimitri Salita after all, and now Win Records. Reported to be making an estimated $2 million per fight, which I'm skeptical about. I find it hard to believe she would have got $2 million for a rematch with Franchon that nobody's asking for, but that's what the reports say. No, that's what Clarissa Shields said, so that's what the boxing scribes reported. I feel like the legitimacy of Win Records' involvement in Clarissa Shields' career will be put to the test in whether or not this fight with Michaela Mayer happens, because for all the things we don't know, what we do know is that Michaela would not take on a fight like this on the cheap. Not if it requires her to fight at either middle or super middle and for no title at all, because Clarissa doesn't hold a belt at 160 or 168. So alphabet titles won't be an incentive, but money still could be if Dimitri Salita and Win Records can kick it out to ensure the Mayer fight happens. If we are to believe that this could be Clarissa's next fight and Michaela's next fight, well, it's going to be on them to make it happen. And if it doesn't, that is also on them. Got the same responsibility if the fight gets made than if it doesn't get made, which would make for poor optics. You're expecting a naturally smaller fighter who spent the beginning stages of her career all the way down there at 130 to move all the way up to 160 to fight you. 165. You're not providing a belt for either of you to fight for, but the least you can do is pay her well to do it, because she is naturally smaller. And it's for that reason Clarissa Shields would get no credit from me, no plaudits, if she were to beat Michaela Mayer. The only one challenging themselves here, the only one taking on a risk, would be Michaela, venturing so far north of where she normally campaigns. Goes without saying. Michaela and Clarissa may be eye level to each other, but these are called weight classes, not height classes. It's like saying Sebastian Fundora is a heavyweight because he's about the same height as Joseph Parker. We all know that he's not. We all know that Michaela, in spite of being eye level to Clarissa, is the naturally smaller woman. So are we supposed to pretend that size doesn't factor into the equation, that Clarissa would have beat her solely on skill, and size has nothing to do with it? Please. So as stated, if the fight actually materializes, and I'm skeptical as to whether or not it will, but if it does, and Clarissa Shields wins, she'll get no credit from me, no plaudits. You should be fighting Jadeja Green. You should be fighting Savania Marshall in a rematch. Whatever you're paying Michaela Mayer, you could kick that out to one of them to have a fight with one of them, as they are more adequately suited to campaign and compete at these weights. This reads more to me like Michaela Mayer doing you a solid, because she knows there's barely anybody up there for you to fight. Swear to God, to me this reads like Michaela Mayer is doing Clarissa Shields a favor. Men's featherweight news, the good people at Boxing Scene posted this on their social media, what reads, Emmanuel Navarrete versus O'Shaquie Foster looks like the fight to make at 130. Who would win? You have to bear in mind that we're not actually on the eve of this fight, because Emmanuel Navarrete must now settle up with Charlie Suarez, his mandatory challenger, who agreed to step aside so he could unify titles with Sugar Nunez. Now that he's won, he's got unfinished business with Charlie, but if by some chance we get to see Emmanuel fight O'Shaquie in the not-so-distant future, who would win? I want to start off by saying that I don't think it's a coincidence that all of this vaquero appreciation, Emmanuel's newfound fame coming on the heels of a unification match, he's been around for years competing at this level,
But it seems like what it took for people to finally start paying attention is for him to dismantle a champion at his own weight, the unified titles. I don't think that's a coincidence. I remember when Alexander Usyk and Naoya Inoue competed in the World Boxing Super Series.
What I'd say launched those two boxers' careers into the next stratosphere, and a part of the appeal in participating in that tournament was you got the unified titles.
The unification matches.
Usyk and Inoue, before participating in that tournament, were both flying pretty low on the radar, but after they unified titles among their fellow champions, that's what got them to where they are. It helped, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Emmanuel, now coming off a unification.
His star is rising.
Because across 3 weight classes where he's reigned as a champion, the one thing he never got to do was unify titles.
Up until recently.
What that communicates is that unification matches matter, belts matter. Boxing fans and the boxers themselves seem to have a love-hate relationship with the sanctioning bodies.
But the belts still matter.
So what would happen if you put Emmanuel Navarrete in the ring with O'Shaquie Foster so they could unify their belts? I think Emmanuel would win. I think that O'Shaquie Foster, who I have a high opinion of, by the way, he's a solid boxer, damn good at what he does, and tough as old boots.
Clutch.
The way he pulled that knockout out of his ass south of the border when he was fighting Rocky Hernandez, the way he thoroughly outboxed 2-weight world champion Stephen Fulton, he's damn good. But against Emmanuel,
he'd lose.
I think he would, because O'Shaquie Foster is a little bit too textbook for Emmanuel, who's not going to box on his terms. He's not going to fight the way you want him to fight. It's often said about Emmanuel that he does everything wrong.
He's unconventional as hell. Awkward.
And he does things that would get another boxer countered, would get another boxer stopped, but when he does them, it just works. Against O'Shaquie Foster, I don't think O'Shaquie has the output or the punching power to keep Emmanuel off of him.
Doesn't throw enough punches per round in a fight.
Emmanuel is too physically imposing, too explosive, too much punching power, too much durability. I think he'd pour it on O'Shaquie Foster. I think the Foster fight would be a bit more difficult than the Nunez fight.
O'Shaquie would put up more of a fight.
Because he's not going to try to beat Emmanuel at his own game like Nunez did.
No.
He's going to try to fight a more conservative fight, using his lead and moving around, but I don't think it's going to help. I think it would end the same way. I think Emmanuel would overpower him. I think Emmanuel, he'd lift the green and gold title from O'Shaquie Foster, which I think the WBC would like a lot. They're based out of Mexico, and we all know they're partial to Mexican fighters. I think if you make it, Emmanuel wins.
But that's if you can make it. As stated, Emmanuel's on the hook to satisfy a mandatory challenger in Charlie Suarez, who he's got to run it back with.
And this time, because he's got a nutritionist and a fitness coach now, I think Emmanuel's going to stop Charlie. Then maybe after that, he can go after O'Shaquie. North of 130 at 135, you may have come across a Ring Magazine report that reads, the WBC have now officially ordered Lamont Roach versus William Zepeda for the vacant WBC Lightweight World title. The title was originally held by Shakur Stevenson, who was stripped following his win over Teofimo Lopez in January over unpaid sanctioning fees. And now it will be on the line in what's supposed to be Roach versus Zepeda, except Roach versus Zepeda wasn't actually ordered.
Per an updated report from veteran boxing scribe Dan Raphael, it's not that the fight got ordered, it's that the fight was already made. According to Dan, the WBC did not order the fight. They came to the WBC with a done deal and asked for the fight to be approved for the vacant title. Various fights were proposed. The WBC accepted this one since they were already the top-ranked guys. Normally, the interim title holder would have been half of the fight.
Sanctioning fees are the focus. They always are. Because if the interim title holder represented a greater value to the World Boxing Council than either William Zepeda or Lamont Roach, then they would be the ones fighting for the title. As it stands, these two guys are, and I'm not against it. It's a good fight.
When I first heard news about this, I was skeptical because I wondered if Lamont would move back down to 135, it being that he just fought at 140.
I didn't get the impression he was still interested in fighting for a title at 135, but here we are, and according to Dan, this fight is already made.
Who made it?
Well, it could have been Golden Boy Promotions, who promotes William Zepeda. To my knowledge, they still promote him. Or it could be Turki El Sheikh. He may have made this for an undercard fight on the undercard of Mexico versus the World in September. What's supposed to be Canelo Alvarez's big ring return.
Maybe he made it so he could do this fight on that undercard.
William is from Mexico.
And Lamont is from Yugoslavia.
No, he's not. Skepticism aside, it would appear that Lamont Roach has already accepted the fight.
You didn't think he would.
Well, William Zepeda by himself is not that big a draw. He's not some big ticket seller, and there are not that many big ticket sellers in the lightweight division today. Who's really down there? Raymond Opetaia? Floyd Schofield?
Abdullah Mason?
I just figured a guy like William Zepeda to Lamont Roach might seem like more trouble than he's worth, even for a WBC title, which leads me to believe either Golden Boy offered Lamont a sizable purse to take on this fight, or it's Turkey doing it, which would explain why it all came together so quickly.
Yeah, we've been all through that. Who wins the fight?
I am leaning a little bit towards William Zepeda. He's not going to box on Lamont Roach's terms. He's not going to fight Lamont Roach's kind of fight. Lamont Roach may have had the right style for Gervonta, but William may have the right style for him. It's the same rationale I just expressed in the Navarrete versus Foster fight, to where this guy's a pressure guy, and for every 1 or 2 punches you throw, he's going to throw 3 and 4, 4 and 5. He's going to try to smother you with activity.
Pressure fighters like William offer up a lot of countering opportunities because they're constantly opening up. But in the absence of stopping power, knockout power, things can get precarious. They might wear you down.
Well, William didn't wear down Shakur, and Shakur's no knockout merchant. Couldn't the same apply to Lamont?
That depends. Do you actually think Lamont Roach is as good a boxer as a Shakur Stevenson? Because I don't. And that William Zepeda fight for Shakur was arguably the hardest fight of his career so far. For Lamont, that could be another loss incoming. So I am leaning a little bit towards William, with the only caveat being that William hasn't fought since the Shakur Stevenson fight. How many months has it been?
And how many more is it going to be the night of?
It's not a bad fight, though. Not a bad fight at all. I am surprised that Lamont would be returning to the lightweight division after having moved up to super lightweight. It's ill-advised to yo-yo in weight like this. But that's the story.
Eddie Hearn, he's not my mate. Like, we don't go hanging out and go to the pub together, and bro, it's fully professional. You know what I mean? Like, and it just shows, you know, I've signed this suit for boxing to better myself, better my family, chase my dreams. You know, yeah, how many times I make it clear how I wanted an undisputed, you know, I'm chasing the belts, nothing happened, you know, like, and then I signed with him and he's just nothing but bad, you know, like just talking badly, you know, trying to drag me through the mud. So it's crazy, you know, he even wanted me to fight one of his fighters. Like, what? Like, how does that make sense? You couldn't get me a title fight, but the second I leave, you wanted me to give your fighter a title fight.
Is your IBF World Cruiserweight title on the line on the week?
Now, I don't recall Eddie Hearn ever making any disparaging comments about Jai Opetaia while he was his registered promoter. He's got to be talking about that stuff he said afterwards when it came out that Mick Francis, according to Eddie Hearn, lost a fortune on Jai Opetaia's last 3 fights. All 3 were in Australia, and Jai...
And I saw all 3 fights. Those were relatively small shows, not big ones like what you see when Tim Tszyu or Nikita Tszyu is fighting in the land down under. So it is conceivable that Eddie was telling the truth, but that doesn't mean that Jai doesn't feel raw about it, in tandem with Eddie not offering him a new deal.
When he signed the Matchroom, the feeling was that Jai Opetaia is sure to get undisputed now, but it never happened. Not a single unification match happened under the Matchroom banner. So Jai feels raw about that. He feels raw about Eddie not offering him a new deal. And he feels raw about the disparaging comments afterwards when it came out that he had signed to Zuffa.
Did Matchroom fail Jai Opetaia?
Did they not try hard enough for that fighter? And the thing is, Matchroom, for all their best efforts, they couldn't force Zurdo Ramirez to fight Jai Opetaia. Zurdo's with Golden Boy.
They couldn't force Chris Billum-Smith, then WBO champion, and Zurdo, then WBA champion, to fight Jai Opetaia. That's not really their fault.
If those 2 reigning champions chose to fight each other, instead of unifying with Jai, there was little to nothing Matchroom could have done about that.
And what about Noel?
What about the WBC title? Well, the WBC title has been locked in limbo for a while now. It would seem that Badu Jack and Noel Michelian jointly were playing Salucci with that thing for a while. It's really not Matchroom's fault that they couldn't get Jai that fight either. If you know the the entire ordeal involving Noel Mikhailian and Badu Jack and what came to be their two fights, you'll know that the green and gold title wasn't available to be fought for until they settled up with each other.
And they finally did. Noel won the fight. Noel's WBC champion. Now he's free to unify titles with Jai. So maybe now it can happen. But as stated, that's really not Matchroom's fault. Jai doesn't see it that way, and he really won't if Zuffa Boxing succeeds where he believes Matchroom failed. Because if after this weekend he's still IBF champion and they get him the Mikhailian fight,
Particulars are going to be lost to the annals of time. All Jai's going to know is that when he was with Zuffa, they got him another belt, but when he was with Matchroom, they didn't.
that's it.
Of course, the main focus of Jai Opetaia's fight this weekend is whether or not he will still be IBF champion afterwards, as there are loose reports that the IBF has given him an ultimatum, that he's got to choose between being IBF champion or Zuffa champion.
Don't listen to everything you read on the internet. You should know that, bro. Like, people always jump into conclusions. People just want to make out like they know, so everyone fucking clicks on their thing. They don't know shit, bro.
Was Jai Opetaia's method of dispelling the rumors, the loose reports that he's been given an ultimatum by the IBF to choose which belt he's going to carry moving forward? He says that people don't know shit. But if there wasn't shit to know, the IBF themselves wouldn't be on the verge of releasing an official statement to provide clarity on the matter, because clarity is needed. If there was nothing to address,
There is something to be said.
Now, what I find interesting is that if Jai Opetaia is in fact allowed to keep the red and gold title moving forward, that would in effect force Zuffa as a promotional outfit to work with them, whether they like it or not, because we all know the IBF is very Johnny on the spot when it comes to their mandates, their mandatories.
If they order one, Zuffa being the promoter of record for Jai Opetaia, that would force them to comply and pay for a fight that they wouldn't otherwise pay for.
Not including whatever mandatory challengers they themselves crown via their Zuffa Cruiserweight title. So there's definitely friction there, or potential for friction. Even if Jai Opetaia is allowed to keep the red and gold title by the IBF, there's still room for things to get hairy down the line. He's not on the hook for any mandatories right now because he just satisfied one in Hussein Sankara.
That was his last fight.
In his next one, he's basically fighting a voluntary in Brendan Glenton. Voluntary as far as the IBF is concerned. Zuffa.
To Zuffa Boxing, this fight with Brandon is good enough that their title, their inaugural Zuffa title, is on the line.
Still more questions that need answers, and we don't have them yet, but the fight date is right around the corner. It's on Sunday, so those answers will come shortly.